Hello everyone, and welcome to the Age of the Ring channel. I'm Jarian, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through the Age of the Ring options tool, which comes as the primary launcher for Age of the Ring version 8.3.1. This app started as an adventure map generator, but over the past year, we've added lots of other features and tools, so I'm going to take you through all of it, right here, right now. Hopefully, by the end of this quick video, you'll be able to get the most out of your launcher, and start flexing your skirmish stats up there with the best of them. Let's go! Let's start at the beginning. When you install the current version 8 updater, which at the time of this recording is 8.3.1, you should see a new shortcut on your desktop called Age of the Ring, followed by that new version number. This shortcut opens the new launcher. Now, there's a lot of stuff on here, but the main thing that matters is the most obvious, the giant play button at the bottom. This button replaces the old shortcuts for launching the mod in single-player mode. And a quick note for folks playing online with Game Ranger, you'll still launch the game in the Game Ranger app using the mod flags as normal. But for the single-player experience, this is your new way to access the game. Let's move on. Across the bottom right of the launcher, you'll see links to all of Age of the Ring's social media pages, among other things. From left to right, we have our YouTube channel, our main ModDB page, which has all of our downloads and articles, our Twitch page, an invite to our Discord server, a link to our forums on Revora, a link to our wiki, and a link to our Patreon if you feel so inclined to support our work. Thank you so much. Now, let's talk about how the app works a little bit. Up here in the top left toolbar, there's a menu called Config Paths. The launcher will determine where both vanilla Rise of the Witch King is installed and where your Age of the Ring mod folder is installed. It needs these locations in order to set certain options that we'll talk about in a minute. When you run the launcher for the first time, it will make its best guess as to what these paths should be, but you can come in here and point to different folders if you wish. But note, this is not recommended for most players. This feature is intended for modders or people juggling multiple versions of the game. Now, over here in the top right, we have a drop-down menu that includes a bunch of different themes curated by the team. Selecting a theme here will change the main menu splash art, as well as the music track that plays while you're in that menu. And this is just for fun and for your own personalization, so go crazy. Below this, we have a huge feature that came with 8.3.1, which is the ability to toggle house colors. With house colors enabled, all units on the field get painted with their player's color, chosen from the skirmish menu. With this setting enabled, it can be much easier to determine which units belong to which player, a trait that can be particularly useful in competitive play. To clarify how this feature works in-game, if you have the house color toggle enabled, it means you will see every player's units in their respective house colors, even if they have it disabled. And this doesn't break online compatibility, which means that house colors are a completely optional personal preference. Furthermore, you can enable or disable house colors to watch replays as well, regardless of whether house colors were used while playing that match. For example, you can play standard without house colors, and then watch or cast that replay in house color mode, or vice versa. Moving right along, below house colors, these next two toggles are related to Age of the Ring specific settings that came in 8.0. They affect two simple files in the Rise of the Witch King directory, one that alters the camera settings in War of the Ring, and one that simply changes the startup splash from the EA Rise of the Witch King one to our custom Age of the Ring one. Using these toggles reverts those files back to their vanilla settings. Now, a warning, disabling the camera settings makes playing War of the Ring in AOTR very difficult, if not impossible. You should only activate this if you intend to play vanilla Rise of the Witch King or another mod's War of the Ring mode. And that does it for all of the saved options in the launcher. For those that are curious, all of these options in this section are saved to a file called aotroptions.ini in your roaming folder, where all your maps and replays are. It's good to be familiar with this folder, and you can get there by searching %, appdata, %, in your file explorer. Then you go to roaming and your Rise of the Witch King folder. This folder can have different names depending on what language you installed Rise of the Witch King in. But right here is your AOTR options file. This file simply stores your choices from the launcher, and it can be handy when troubleshooting. Notice briefly at the bottom here is another option that's not present in the actual tool, the options language. Currently, the launcher is obviously in English, but there is a partial translation for German in 8.3.1. Just change English here to Deutsch, and the launcher will be partially translated. However, this feature is very much a work in progress. If you're curious about providing a translation for the tool in another language, you can reach out to me on Discord. Alright, let's go over a few more small features before getting to the big stuff. Up here in the toolbar, we see a button called Tools. Open that up and we have a few options. Change Resolution opens a prompt to enter your desired screen resolution. 1920 by 1080 is of course recommended, but this option provides an easy way to change it if you'd like. However, it will let you put any numbers in, but that doesn't mean that what you've entered is a valid option. Next, the Reset Options tool quickly reverts all settings back to their default choices, except for the ones coming up next in this Tools menu. Toggle Testing Mode is a unique tool added in for modders, but anyone might enjoy playing around with this. Toggling this option spawns the infamous rogue Restore Man alongside your builders at the start of a skirmish match. Use him to test out heroes and units in a much more efficient, if not strange, manner. This setting automatically turns off when you close the launcher, and it isn't tracked by the AOTR options file. And it breaks online compatibility if you have it activated and others do not. And finally, Launch Windowed Mode simply allows the game to launch in windowed mode. Select this option before hitting the Play Age of the Ring button, and voila! This setting also defaults to off every time the launcher is opened, so you'll have to reselect it after closing the launcher. Alright, now we can finally discuss some of the big features of this launcher. Let's start with the Adventure Map Generator over here on the right side. This tool allows for tons of extra flexibility in the way that you can play with the special adventure factions in Age of the Ring. For the uninitiated, an adventure faction is a heavily altered faction design that uses map settings to transform one of the 11 base factions available in Age of the Ring. Changes and themes vary, of course, but the main idea is to offer a different combination of skirmish units and spells, often with new art, abilities, units, and mechanics that aren't available elsewhere in the mod. Some of them offer completely different playstyles as well, like how Adventure Ithilien replaces your standard BFME 2 free build system with a camp and build plots instead. These factions aren't available through the regular faction selection dropdown, but instead on specific skirmish maps prefixed with the word adventure. Now, if you've never played an adventure faction before, I highly recommend you play one on the map they were designed for first. To do this, simply select that particular map from the skirmish menu and make a note of which base faction the adventure faction is built on. Only a human player can use the adventure faction units and mechanics, so never set an AI player to be this base faction. You should set yourself to that base faction in the dropdown. This way, the map will recognize you as the adventure faction player and provide you with all the new content when you load the game. And it's as easy as that. But wait, so what does the launcher have to do with any of this? Right, so let's say you're a hardcore Rune fan. Then obviously you're going to want to crush the West! How can you do that on just this one desert map? The answer lies here in the generator. First, you should select the adventure faction you want to play. In this case, we'll use Rune as the example. So check off Rune, and then we go to the drop-down over here. This is a list of every available map in the mod that can handle an adventure faction. Now, Varus can finally challenge his worthiest adversaries in the proper location. Now that we've picked our adventure faction and the map that we want to play them on, we can hit Create Map. The pop-up will tell you the name of the custom map file that was created in your Roaming Maps folder. But now, your new adventure map is available in-game. Let's see how it differs from the regular ones. Here in the skirmish menu, I'll sort by the hammer icon, which identifies custom maps. Then, after scrolling, we should find our map with the prefix Custom ADV. This description of the map will also tell you which base factions are replaced by adventure factions on this map. We chose Rune in the launcher, so this description is telling us to play as Mordor in order to use the Rune content. Then we can launch the game just like any other adventure map. While that about covers the basics of generating new adventure maps in this tool, there's a few other things to note. You can absolutely play these adventure maps online. The game automatically transfers custom map data to all players in the lobby, so only one of you needs to create it beforehand. Know that any player that chooses the adventure faction's base faction in the skirmish menu will play as that adventure faction. So, for example, you could have multiple rune players if they all select Mordor, but there's no way to play as the regular base faction on their own adventure map. And what if you want to play online with multiple adventure factions? That's also possible. First, try out the Angmar Wars map that comes in 8.3.1, which features the iconic Arthedain and Angmar matchup. But the launcher allows you to select multiple adventure factions as well. With Rune already selected, I can also check off Dorwinion for the ultimate Eastern Middle-earth showdown. Remember though that this type of map must be played online, since the AI cannot pilot an adventure faction. Note also that when you select some of these adventure factions, others get grayed out. This is because those factions are built on the same base faction, and are incompatible on the same map. For reference, Arthedain, Grey Company, and Ithilien all use Gondor for a base, while Battle of the Five Armies and Durin's Folk both use Erebor. Similarly, you cannot play an adventure faction on a Besiege map type where the AI defender is using the base faction. For example here, Besiege Halls of the Elven King is incompatible with Dorwinion, since Dorwinion is based on Woodland Realm, which is the AI defender of that map. That leaves only one more feature to discuss. Back in the day when I was a kid and Rise of the Witch King had just come out, I was obsessed with playing endless skirmish matches, trying to max out the ranks on my favorite factions to see what the new titles in the profile stats screen would be. Now, since Age of the Ring has added 4 additional factions to the game, including overriding Angmar with Haradwaith, this screen is largely defunct. So, over in the bottom left of the launcher, we have our Stats button. Clicking this opens a new interface that's meant to replace this outdated screen. Now, the launcher can read your stats files for all factions and profiles and display them right here. We also slightly updated the rank system and gave each faction unique titles you can try to achieve. Bring on the nostalgia and compare with your friends. Thank you all for watching. That's about it for this video. Hopefully you can now use your launcher to its fullest potential and continue to enjoy this glorious game with us even after all these years. Tell us about your wacky adventure faction combos, or how you defeated 7 death marches with Restore Man, or, if you're really brave, your overall time played stat. Cheers, everybody.